Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello, and welcome back to Joe on Joe Extreme. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back this week to watch a very cool episode of G.I. Joe Extreme. We're watching Rampage for President. It's a timely episode, so I thought I'd reach out to my friend, or rather, he reached out to me. My friend Jason Merle, former guest, friend of the show, host of the Order of Battle podcast, Caesarmoo. Welcome to Joe on Joe Extreme.
Thank you much, Joe.
I'm happy to have you on, my friend. So, Jason, how is life?
Life has been extreme with COVID and everything else going on.
It really is. It is. We are living through an extreme time. And so why not bring on an extreme guest alongside you, Caesarmoo, is a young gentleman who goes by the name of Alexander. Alexander, welcome to Joe on Joe Extreme.
Hello.
Hello, Alex. Introduce yourself to the listeners.
I am Caesarmoo's son, aka Jason.
Now, do you have a nickname?
Sort of.
Sort of.
I either go by Alex or Alexander. I don't care.
Okay. Well, listen, by the time we're done today, now you may not be with us the whole time. So before you go, at whatever point you have to jet, we're going to get you a Joe and Joe code name. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to do that. So Caesarmoo, make sure you make that happen before his out time happens. Interrupt and we'll jump into that part of the show because we're going to get Alexander a G.I. Joe nickname. Sound good?
Yes.
Sounds good to me. I think mine is King Cow, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you were. You were King Cow. You absolutely were. It'd be like Prince Cow or something. But we'll figure it out. We'll get there. So, you guys, welcome to Joe on Joe Extreme. This is the extreme era of G.I. Joe. Caesarmoo, what was your experience with G.I. Joe Extreme? Did you see these before, or were you just a fan of the Real American Hero and skipped over the Extreme era?
When these came out, I was working in a comic shop called AB Tales, and I read the comics, wasn't a big fan of them, but I didn't even know about the cartoon at the time because I was also working a couple other jobs and didn't have much time for TV.
Well, you did say you were working at a comic shop, so I'm assuming you had at least 3 other jobs to keep a roof over your head.
Exactly.
So you never saw the cartoon. Well, last week's guest, Scott Reed, of course, was the anchor on the G.I. Joe Dark Horse books, and that was a lovely conversation with him. We were really happy to have him on. Listeners, if you haven't heard, go back to last week's episode, and we covered some of the inception of the Dark Horse G.I. Joe / Extreme. Although technically they didn't call it Extreme. It was just called G.I. Joe. But it is certainly the Extreme era. So we covered that on last week's episode. And so
I would like to go back and read those.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read them since they were new on the shelf, and I didn't like them at the time, but I've changed, and I'm sure they probably hold up better than my opinion at the time, where it wasn't Hama.
I didn't like them, not because it wasn't Hama, but because it wasn't my Joe's. Because I thought it was supposed to be my Joe's. So I was reading it going, well, what is that? Snake Eyes in the future? Is that supposed to be? Why did they change Scarlet's name to Mayday? Like, my brain wasn't, when I first read them, my brain didn't wrap around that it was just a reboot. Like, it was a totally fresh reconceptualization of G.I. Joe. So I didn't like it because it wasn't those guys, not necessarily because the writing was bad. I mean, Mike Barr wrote them. The art's great, as we covered last week. Mike Barr is a super talented writer.
Agreed.
Yeah, and so I've reread them now, understanding what they were actually doing with it, and they're good comics. They're fun, and they actually add a lot to the Extreme mythos. They get into the idea of Scar being part of like a bigger global menace than just Scar. And Ironclaw not necessarily being the head of everything, he actually reports to people. That's all in these comics, which they didn't really get into until later in the cartoon. So I think that's great. Like, it's a solid book.
That's exactly why I want to go back and read them again, and this will be the impetus for me doing that.
Yeah.
I just got to pull them out of the long box.
Absolutely, and don't be disappointed though, because as we discovered, as we talked about last week, the second series, and so historically, you look back and you go, oh, they did 2 4-issue miniseries. No, they didn't. They did 1 4-issue miniseries, which is solid and really good, and really gets into the origin of the comic version of the Extreme Team. It's a little different from the show. Then the second quote unquote miniseries is not a miniseries at all. It is an ongoing series. It's a 3-issue story. And then the 4th issue starts a new storyline, and then they cancel the comic. So it's wildly disappointing because there is a cliffhanger. But you get like 2 solid stories in the first 7 issues, and then the 4th issue of the second run is really extraneous. But that's when it got canceled. You know, it got hit with that 90s crush of cancellations.
Thanks for looking out, because that would definitely be one of those. What the hell happened here?
Yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer, and they do cover it in the they actually do cover it in the letters page at the time. They say, "Hey guys, this is the last issue. We're sorry, but you know, times are tough." Kind of a conversation. So at least you're not entirely unaware of what's happening. But the story itself, and it was the start of a new story. It's not like it was a 3-issue arc or 4-issue arc that was supposed to be 6 and never had. You know, you just have 1 issue of like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, nope, stop, we're done. Now, Jason, you're a toy collector. Do you have the Extreme toys?
I don't. We have focused mostly on the vintage O-ring toys.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to get into modern a little bit, and I had looked at both Extreme and Six Sigma or Sigma 6,
Mm-hmm.
as well as some other stuff. But A has just stuck with O-rings, so that's where the money's gone.
Well, that's a good place to go. The O-rings are classic. I really was hoping for an O-ring selection with this new, you know, quote unquote retro line, but I feel like O-rings today would be prohibitively expensive.
They might be. And we've been calling it the retro packaging line here at the house, because that's really all it is.
That's really what it is, and they look great. So it's not a complaint about that. With all the all the manufacturing involved in the O-ring versus, you know, popping out the plastic molds for these new ones, I have a feeling you'd have to charge what, $18 for an O-ring, $15. You know what I mean? If we're looking at $12 for the plastic molded stuff, which is you mold it, you pop it out, you put it together, getting the O-rings with all the little pieces and the hooks and the everything and the hand at least $15 for an O-ring on the card.
Yeah, and technology's changed a bit where they would have to re-engineer how those metal and plastic joints all worked.
Right.
It's
obviously doable, but they wouldn't sell the volume that they could get away with back in the day for selling them for $4 a piece. You know, like the volume wouldn't be there to justify doing them. But
yeah, and you know, for us the positive side is that we get to walk into a store eventually and see them on a shelf.
Yes.
And so whether it's O-ring or not, whether it's 6-inch or 4-inch, being able to walk in, you know, turn that corner and see a peg hook, that's going to be where the joy is.
I totally agree. I was at Target. So we're recording this in early August, everyone. I believe this is dropping late August. And the Target Cobra Island line was supposed to have launched yesterday, and so I popped into Target myself. I know a lot of people. I saw a lot of people on Twitter having trouble finding this stuff. A lot of people had some success, but I went into a Target and they had none of the Cobra Island stuff, but they did have one Scarlet was sitting there on the shelf that was still there, and it brought joy to me to see the brand G.I. Joe sitting next to the Transformers, sitting next to the Marvels, sitting next to all that stuff. It really, really, really felt good to see that. Do you feel the same, Jason?
We've been going in like every day for a week.
Every day. Do you go to the same Target, Alex?
Sometimes we go to 2 targets or 1, or it just depends if it's a target.
Yeah.
We'll go to a target. If it's a target, we go to it.
Now,
we try to find it.
Now, Alexander, I gotta ask you this question. Do you pull the move where you go there, they don't have exactly the Joes you're looking for, but then do you turn to your dad and be like, well, listen, Dad, as long as we're here, you might as well buy me this like Transformers toy. Like, why waste a trip? Maybe we don't get the G.I. Joe stuff.
I've actually tried that. I asked for a Beyblade. I asked for I don't know, something else. I've asked for a couple of things, but Dad said,
does it work? It doesn't work. Oh, King Cow, what's happening?
It doesn't work because I have.
You would be broke.
Well, there's that. Actually, something I've done since he's been about 3 is I have a box where we just have a bunch of toys in it that he doesn't have yet. And every once in a while, he just goes to that and he'll grab something. It could be modern, it could be vintage, it could be Joe or another line. And so instead of getting what amounts to a 1-hour toy, we can go to the house, he can pull something out of that box, and he plays with that for weeks.
I love it. That's great. It's so smart. That's so smart. And that long game you're playing of since he was like, Alexander, how old are you now?
About to be 9.
About to be 9. When's your birthday?
August 29th.
Oh my gosh. I think I'm not even fooling. I think this episode drops the week of your birthday. Happy birthday. So, listeners, I want you to find our friend now, Caesarmoo. You host the Order of Battle podcast. So you can either tag at Caesarmoo, CAESARMOO, or more importantly, I need you guys to find the Order of Battle pod. It's Order of Battle PD. That's them on Twitter. Find their podcast. Listen to them, first of all. But I want everyone to shoot a happy birthday note to Alexander through one of those or both of those handles. So listeners, everyone flood Alexander with a happy birthday. He's turning 9 this week, and he's a G.I. Joe fan. So we need to make sure the G.I. Joe community wishes him a big, big, big happy birthday, okay?
That sounds awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can't wait. And then you could tell all your friends, be like, I had like hundreds of people online wish me a happy birthday. And then they're going to be jealous. And then they're going to be like, well, how do I get into G.I. Joe so people wish me a happy birthday? And then you're going to say, well, I'd send you to Target, but Target doesn't have any toys. Is that how it works?
So I want to say something.
Okay.
So talking about that box, yesterday, I think. Well, the day before we record this. I think it was yesterday. But I opened up carded Fun School Scrap Iron.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Jason, did you have a heart attack?
No, that was what it was there for. It's not the Hasbro one that goes for a few $100s. It's the Fun School that goes for $20.
Okay, very good. That's awesome. Was he like, so he's brand new, he's crisp. Like, is the O-ring brittle at all? Like, because at this point, that's like a 20-year-old toy, right?
Yeah, it's not that brittle.
Okay.
Yeah, but the controller is very stiff. The missiles are very rubbery. Like, you can easily bend them and like nothing. The gun has a lot of overpaint. The red on him is blood red, not normal red. The blue is a lot brighter. The tan is a little brighter. The gun has like a bunch of more plastic that doesn't resemble any detail. I don't know how to tell the missile launcher from. I haven't tested. Yeah, I haven't tested yet.
You said scrap iron, right? I heard you correct?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. So let's see which I went to our friends over at yojo.com, and let's see if they have the do you know what, like, was the fun, so Jason, is the Fun School scrap iron, is it just the 84 scrap iron, or is it?
It is the 84 scrap iron.
Okay.
I'm not sure what year it was released in India under the Fun School brand.
Oh,
but it is
found the picture.
It's the same one.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah, those are the same. Those are the same rockets that then they are rubbery. Yep. And I think because if those rockets, one, if they were more firm, you probably could do some damage as a child, and two, you'd probably break them putting them in and out of the missile launcher. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The difference that he was explaining with the Fun School versus the domestic, it is a lot more pliable, a lot more flexible.
Oh, really? It is. Okay.
Than what we had here in the States.
Is his outfit red?
It's red and blue. The domestic one was like a dark blue and a dark red.
Yeah.
And then with aging and discoloring, it's almost a greenish blue.
Okay.
And then the Fun School one is a brighter red and a brighter blue, a little bit different of a skin tone.
Interesting. Yeah. Cause
I don't know if it was cheaper paints, cheaper plastics, or just, a different culture. But a lot of times when they did try to make it 1-to-1, there was still some pretty visual differences.
I just found the actual Fun School packaging. Yeah. I can see the difference in color and all that stuff. Yeah, it's very cool. Well, it's so funny that you guys bring this up, like this variant version of it, completely unrelated. I was up late last night, and I kind of went gonzo on eBay. It just started getting a bunch of stuff because I was up late and I had G.I. Joe in the brain. I think because I was disappointed in my Target trip. So I'm not a toy. I wouldn't call myself a toy collector, but I love the O-ring stuff. And so I have a pretty nice collection of those, both my originals, and then I've got a stuff on card and stuff as I've been doing the podcast. So last night, well, listeners for the show, I did pick up Spy Troops, and I did pick up Valor versus Venom. So that means we're going to be doing Spy Troops. We're going to be doing Valor Venom. We're going to be doing those on this show. So that is incoming, and we will be covering that on Joe on Joe. But I picked up Sergeant Stalker from the discount line, where I guess they were from one of the anniversary waves that they recarded. Our friend Jeremiah Stafford was explaining this to me. And I also picked up the Cobra Commander from the discount, like from the line that was repackaged and just put out on the places like the dollar store and stuff like that. I'm excited. Like, this is all new to me. Like, this is really kind of cool. Because I just wanted to. It was new to me, and they had them pretty cheap on eBay. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna grab these and see what they look like.
The stuff that they did between or after '94 is, some of it's incredible, some of it's incredibly wonky. Mm-hmm. But it's fun to jump down those rabbit holes, especially when you can find it cheap.
That red and white card on the Cobra Commander is wild. Like I think I've seen that in passing. But last night it was the right price, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll do this. $12.99 free shipping. I'll check this out. I did also order the Funko Shipwreck. Funko Zartan seems sold out most places I looked at, but I do want to get my hands on the Funko Zartan as well. Did you see those?
I've seen them, but we have been avoiding Funko so far.
It's probably smart. I don't do a ton of Funko, but okay, the G.I. Joe stuff I do. They came out with a Smoking the Bandit recently that was a must for me. So
the one that I always wanted, they did a Travis Bickle, which I thought was wildly ballsy to do Taxi Driver as a Funko, but I've never seen it in real life, and I didn't want to pay the $20 on eBay. So if I run across it, I may get it. That's been the only Funko that I've personally looked for. Yeah. And I have a Sergeant Slaughter 4A. Oh, cool. Because he loves Slaughter.
Oh yeah. I'll never stop being surprised at even though obviously like the Funko faces, it's the same round, it's the same round eyes, it's the same like general head sculpt, and yet those artists managed to capture the essence of those characters. So you look at it and you go, oh yeah, I can see some of Travis Bickle in that. And I don't know how much of like that's our brain applying that to it, like it's such a blank slate that our brain is tricking us into saying that looks just like him, or that looks just like Burt Reynolds on the Smokey and the Bandit, even though it's the same face as every other Funko Pop,
Yeah, it's the mohawk and the green army jacket. It doesn't look anything at all like Robert De Niro, but I immediately recognized it.
Right. It's just such a genius sculpt and just concept that they did with the Funko stuff. It is so brilliant because it is just this blank slate. It's just this blank slate that fans pour their emotions into because of a jacket and a mohawk. And it's incredibly popular. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. So the more G.I. Joe Funkos, all of this, the more G.I. Joe everything. By this point, I think we will have, by the time this audio drops, I think we will have had a lot more announcements on the G.I. Joe video game. Alexander, do you play video games?
So I sometimes play video games.
Yeah. What games do you play?
So there's a G.I. Joe video game called War on Cobra that I really like. Joel played it. Both got bored with it.
Do you remember your War on Cobra name?
Yes.
Do you remember
Alex?
You were Alex? Because I'm Joe on Joe Pod, and I'm a part of the G.I. Joeberg team. And
I'm part of the Full Force one.
Oh, the Full Force? Okay, that's awesome. I'll look for you. It's funny because I guess a couple weeks back, apparently I was destroying his base repeatedly.
Wait, you destroyed my base?
No, I may have. Look for Joe on Joe Pod. I like to wreak havoc on that game. I try to check in daily to keep my rewards up. It's a fun game.
Was there a bunch of stuff in the water?
Those seem to be the most successful bases because the boat action in that game is kind of weak. It's really difficult to do anything with boats. Well, there's a new console video game coming out, and as we record this, we don't have a lot of details, but they're supposed to be making some announcements on it in August. So that's exciting. I can't wait for that. Like a PlayStation, Xbox kind of a game.
Yeah, I think it's called Operation Blackout or something.
Yep.
Yeah, Operation Blackout. Musmer from the Full Force Alliance said that the pre-orders are coming in soon.
Absolutely. I know Gamefly had it listed a few weeks back. So it's out there, and I can't wait to play it. Well, I'm excited for today's episode, guys, because today's episode is Rampage for President. And it feels like in this America that we're living in, it is a valid episode to watch because we're heading towards possibly the most important presidential election of our lifetime. And in this episode, we see what happens when a completely unqualified clown runs for president of Kambacha, something like that. So I feel like it's the name of a like a coffee liqueur or something like that. So we're going to watch that show. And listeners, while you're on the internet, I want you to find me at Joe on Joe Pod. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Let me know what you think of the show. Give me a review on all of your podcast places. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know if you want to be a guest on the show or what you think of the show. I appreciate all the feedback. I always get back to you guys. And, we're on Patreon. If you want to help support the show, please feel free to go to Patreon and become a grunt or a viper and help keep the lights on here at Joe on Joe Extreme. And before we start the show, we have to ask the important question of our highly esteemed special guest, Alexander. Alexander, if you could be a member of the G.I. Joe or Cobra team, or the Scar team or G.I. Joe Extreme team, which team would you be on? What would your specialty be? Like what thing in life do you love the most that you would do for that team? And then we'll come up with a name for you. So what team would you want to be on?
Extreme. What would my specialty be? It's actually a little hard.
what do you like to do? Like, what's your favorite class in school? Like, do you like math? Do you like English? Do you like what do you gravitate towards?
Reading.
You like reading. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing I like about school.
Oh,
That and recess.
well, that's amazing. What if you were like the G.I. Joe translator, and
Yeah.
your job was to like read manuscripts and decipher codes, and when they go on all these adventures to all these foreign lands, like it's your job to make sure that that everyone knows what's happening on the mission and everything.
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Is that fun? You can carry explosive books.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be
So
your
just
action
like
figure. Yeah.
books.
If
So
listen, if
it would look like what?
yeah, if Captain Gridiron can have football-shaped grenades, you can certainly have explosive books.
Or like books with no pages, just full of
Yeah. Oh,
explosives.
all your
I'm
books.
like walking around dressed like a college student, and I'm walking
Completely.
through the battlefield, and I see some Scar agents. I pull out a couple books, throw them at them. Bam, they're gone.
Perfect. Now, wait a minute. Did you say you were going to be on the G.I. Joe team or the Extreme team?
Extreme.
Oh, you're going to be on that's even better. I think you might be the first one to be on the Extreme team. That's fantastic. So,
No,
yeah,
I think Cujo was on it. Yeah, Cujo.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. So, your action figure at first glance is all books. But all those books open up, and inside of them, some are bombs, some are guns. You hide your guns in your books. You hide all of your like lockpick, like everything that you have is hidden in a book. So like you come with a backpack to carry it all. That's what you look, and exactly what you just said. You look like a college student. So someone would be like, he's not a soldier, he's a college student, but you're secretly undercover this name. So now we're going to come up with a name for you. Do you have any idea what you'd want your name to be?
Hacker.
Hacker. I love it. Hacker, welcome to the G.I. Joe Extreme team. Yay!
Thanks.
Hacker, you're amazing. Thank you for being a guest on the show today. I think you have to run now, right?
Extreme.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you, Alex. You have a great day, okay?
Bye.
Bye-bye now. And listeners, don't forget to say hi to Caesarmoo at Order of Battle Pod and Caesarmoo on Twitter, and wish Alex a happy birthday. He's turning 9 this week, so everyone flood him with birthday wishes. Jason, father of Hacker, King Cow, awesome. Thank you for having him on the show, man. Are you ready to watch this? You ready to launch this firecracker?
I have it open. I have it ready. And since I haven't seen this episode, this is going to be enjoyable.
Well, listeners, you get your trigger fingers ready because we are watching Rampage for President, and here we go. So, it's season 2, so we're not getting the live action intros, so I apologize for that. You're missing out on those, but you certainly, Jason, you have access to the entire shared library of these episodes. So you can go back and watch those first season live intros. They're really great. What's your initial take on the animation style?
The animation style, I think you've mentioned it before, and looking at it now, it definitely feels like the X-Men cartoon.
Yeah.
Personally, I've never been a fan, even back then, of this much heavy blacks all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely has a stylized look that there's no question of what's happening.
Yeah. And
this is intense.
For sure. And it lends itself to more superhero feel, which this show absolutely does. And it hides a lot of the flaws. We have a great opening, guys. This opening of this episode is Rampage literally behind bars from whatever his last escapade was. That's great. That's continuity that we just don't normally get on a G.I. Joe show, where you go episodes in Rampage. In Rampage, listeners, is the Iron Man / Hulk guy. The guy who, he's in a suit of armor like War Machine, but he also hulks out when he gets angry. He's still in prison. That's fantastic. And then we're now seeing the Extreme team. They're walking around what's still their new headquarters, and Stone is kind of like giving them a guided tour of it. Because if you remember, it's just been a few episodes where they were working with Red to kind of get this new headquarters outfitted and break it in, so to speak. So this is the continuity doesn't stop. And Kamchatka is the name of the place, which I think isn't Kamchatka a rum? I feel like Kamchatka is some kind of rum or something, or vodka.
Not sure if it's rum, but it's way too close to.
Yeah. So now Rampage has been let out of prison. It's another example of people who should be behind bars for doing despicable things getting released by powers by the people who are running things. So this is right out of the gates. This is a very timely episode. You might as well Rampage might as well be played by Roger Stone. We'll throw this out there, and we see this Scar Council chamber, and this is very cool. This is kind of what we were alluding to earlier, where Scar is not just Ironclaw. Scar is, in this case, that guy looks like he's Italian mafia. But Scar is more than just Ironclaw and those terrorists. Scar is a larger organization that's running things. And they have a really big slideshow projector budget, as we can see in this. And we learned that they're going to have Rampage run as president of Kamchatka. And Kamchatka, I'm going to mispronounce it. Kamchatka is a, Middle Eastern European country. Scar's going to support him. They're going to, this is shades actually of the Cobra Island stuff, Jason, where, they got that foothold on the island and then went into the UN and got legitimacy, and that's, I think, what Scar is going for here. If they can get themselves a country, and in this case, you got a failed businessman who's a, inveterate liar running a country, you can set yourself up for more legitimacy. And I think that's really what they're going for here. And this is key, because they've wiped his criminal record. So now the public has no idea that he was ever in prison. That's a lot of what they did with Lex Luthor in the Superman books. Did you ever read
people?
Did you ever read the President Luthor stuff?
I did not. I was never a big Superman guy.
Yeah, they did a cool thing with Luthor, because he was a 80s tycoon, rich criminal as well. And they had him run for president in the comics. And this is around 2000. And he won. And they did it by leaning into the public perception and that difference of, and the creators are running that line here with the show, where the viewer of the cartoon knows a ton more about what these bad guys are doing than the people in the country that they're running for. The average citizen in this Lex Luthor stories, the average citizen didn't know that Luthor was this mad scientist criminal, who was responsible for the deaths of tons of people. They just saw him as a rich person on TV. And
a man of the people, regardless of his million.
Exactly. And that's how they said the people of the DC universe treated it. And that's essentially the lever that they're leaning on this show, is that if there's no record of Rampage being a criminal, then the voters of Kamchatka would not know otherwise. So he could just lean on his business acumen, because he does run, I forget the name of, if they ever gave the name of the business. This is neat. We're meeting all these mercenaries, and these are all new characters too, and they're awesome. And they're like a hit squad that's being hired to run the show. They're like mercenary police force. They're hired to. They're going to be going into Kamchatka and keeping control for Rampage. Like, they're going to do the dirty work that Rampage can't do, because now Rampage is trying to be legitimate. And we also see our friend the
Oh,
Silencer.
way too close to real life.
What's that?
I said this smells way too close to real life.
Way
We
too,
have a-
yeah, way too close to real life. Like, that's the thing, guys. This is a 25-year-old show, and you know, maybe if hashtag release the extreme, if these episodes were out in the wild and we were able to watch them easier, maybe the world would have learned a lesson or two from this specific episode. And what a bad idea this is. These are 4 dudes who never got action figures, but I love them all. The design is great on all of them. They're very superhero-y looking, and they're very distinct. I would have loved to have seen action figures of these. I wonder if any listeners out there, if anyone ever did customs of these characters, because they're really cool. I really like them. Now we're seeing that the Silencer, who we covered last episode, he just shot a laser off the dude's eyeglasses, reflected onto a car mirror, and then through the head of the target dummy that they were practicing with. That was great.
These are absolutely superheroes at this point.
Oh, they're all completely superheroes. Absolutely. And here's Rampage. The other fun thing that I like doing, that they do on the show is, because we just know Rampage is Rampage, right? Like, if I can't remember if they gave him a real name even on the toy, but on the show they don't even bother giving him a real name. They just call him Rampage, and they make fun of that. So we're going to commercial. We're going to be right back.
Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie, it's about not 2 movies, it's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show.
There's a few lines in here where they go, well, what should we call you? And he's just like, Rampage. Like, they lean into it. They don't shy from that, I think that's pretty fun.
He is absolutely Iron Man with all the weapons coming over his shoulders.
Oh, completely. It's and the color scheme gives it a War Machine feel. By the way, that helicopter, guys, that's a better looking helicopter that was in Snake Eye's Dead game. But bum. I said it. You heard me. You
You are not wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. There's actual rotors on this one. So Jason, tell me and tell our listeners about the Order of Battle pod. Like, what is it? It's obviously a G.I. Joe podcast, but like, what do you guys cover? What do you do? Who's your co-host on it? Tell us all about it.
The Order of Battle is right now, it's a conversation between my co-host Joel and I talking about mostly G.I. Joe, but we do stray from that quite a bit.
What's Joel's last name? Let's give him a shout.
Thompson.
Joel Thompson.
We're mainly sticking with toys. We are veering into the comics because he's never read the larger part of the Marvel G.I. Joe run. We've watched a few of the cartoons, and we'll expand as we move. It's more of a learning device for us, as well as something we've both wanted to do for years.
That's fabulous. I love it.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and do you so you said it drops about every 2 weeks. Do you guys have like a set structure, or for any budding podcasters out there, like how do you guys organize your show? Like, is it, do you have segments? Like describe your show. Like, tell our listeners what it's all about.
Well, the Order of Battle was a 4-issue Marvel comic from the 87, which was simply just a reprinting of the file cards from G.I. Joe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The Order of Battle podcast was a chance for a buddy, Joel Thompson, and I to get together and talk about toys. And our natural connection was G.I. Joe, so it does tend to focus there. But he's a 4-inch modern collector. I'm more vintage.
So it's like he's a little bit country, you're a little bit rock and roll.
A little bit. So we balance well off of each other, so we can hit, multiple phases of toys, multiple generations of toys. And most of it is fairly conversational, but we do try to hit the high notes of the comics, the cartoons, things other than G.I. Joe.
And do you guys do it?
Hacker
Do you guys do it in any order? Like, do you have like a do you do it like chronological, or do you jump around from week to week?
We jump around from week to week. We're usually coming up with whatever the topic's going to be the night before we record. We're still new to the game, so
that's fun. That's fun. Well, real quick on the show, what's happening is Freight and the Joe team, they're acting as security for a debate in Kamchatka, the presidential debate that is about to begin between Rampage and the current president of Kamchatka. Those assassins were hired to attempt to assassinate the current president, therefore either making Rampage, if they're successful, then Rampage is the only one that runs and he wins by default. But what we'll see happens is probably something I don't think they necessarily anticipated, but all these assassins are trying their best and they're all going to get foiled by different members of the Joe team. Freight's there, Eagle Eye's there. Do you guys have any plans to cover Extreme on Order of Battle Pod?
we hadn't yet, but at some point we want to cover all sorts of things. We have been tempting each other to get into 12-inch toys, but that's still a ways away. And Extreme seems to be so much better than both the Deke era and what came after with Spy Troops and Vala versus Venom. So
yeah. Well, that stuff was just purchased, you know, by this here podcaster. So we are going to be covering that as Valor Venom, and I've never seen Valor Venom or Spy Troops in full. So I don't know. I don't have an opinion, good or bad, on those. But on the show, Metalhead just thwarted one of the assassins, and Rampage actually saved the life of the president because he was so angry with everything that was going on. But to the crowd, it looks as if Rampage actually saved the president. And it's going to turn him into like a local hero for the people of Kamchatka. And here they are cheering him on like sheep to the MAGA rally. Sorry. I didn't mean to be so on the nose with that one.
Well, I think this whole show's on the nose.
Yeah.
It's a rich incompetent who is getting by expunging his record and lying to the public, and they buy it.
It really is. It really is. And here we go. So we have Iron Claw explaining that while the mercenaries bungled it, they're still like any good improv team. They're yes-anding what happened, and they're going to make the most of it. And they're going to send Rampage, rocketing to the top of the charts. Here we got Steel Dragon, or Steel Raven. I always call her Steel Dragon. Steel Raven. She's such a good looking. And you were saying, she said they made a figure out of her and looked really great for the Collectors Club.
They did. She's fantastic in the 4-inch modern.
Mm-hmm. Well, there it is. Kamchatka. I think I've said it 18 different ways on this show. Kamchatka. I think one of the reasons why these toys, I like these toys a lot, is they're hyper posed and a little overly muscled, but I think the color schemes are dynamite for them. I really do. I think the muted blues, the muted reds, and kind of like that olive green that a lot of the characters share. I think that works really well, and she's certainly one of them.
It's a beautiful look, even if it is a little overshadowed for my taste.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, that was the look of the time.
Yeah. Well, we're going to commercial, and we'll be right back.
Today's file card is on the alien bounty hunter, the Predacon. That's right, guys. We've completely run out of extreme toys to talk about for our file cards. So for the remaining episodes, I'm going to go back in time, back to the original set, and kind of work backwards, because the set itself got more extreme as it went on. So we left off with Carcass, and I think from Carcass, you roll right into Predacon, which is the predator of the G.I. Joe world. His birthplace is the Badlands on planet Trilenium. His primary specialty is alien tracking, and his secondary specialty is the greatest of all time, an arm wrestler. A vicious lunatics alien, Predacon makes his living by capturing criminals and selling them back to the galactic authorities. If the authorities reject the criminals, Predacon imprisons them in his private alien zoo. This four-armed monster is loyal only to his tribal clan on planet Trilenium, and he's proud to wear its ancestral medallion on his chest plate, along with lunatics hieroglyphics that are etched into his arm guards. So you can see all the Predator bits that they stole from the movie. He's got the dreadlock, the hieroglyphs on the arm guard. Now, he does have 4 arms. That's an addition. That's new. And I gotta say, kind of awesome. I've seen him at shows, but I don't think I've ever really checked him out. I want to know, are those 4 arms like all the same kind of ball joints? Like, it looks like they are. It's amazing. Have you guys customized this with different, so given the Predacon different like 4 arms? I need to see this. If you guys have these, share them. He is light blue with green dreadlocks, white pants. His paint applications are nothing to write home about. He absolutely is just molded in the colors that he's molded. Like his legs are white, his arms are blue, his chest is darker blue, his hair is green. Maybe it looks like they painted his eyes and his teeth. That's about it. But he comes with a ton of guns, enough for literally 4 arms. He's got a machete. He's got a knife. Like, he's a straight up Predator ripoff. And I kind of love it. I need to get my hands on a Predacon. So Predacon, you alien bounty hunter from the planet Trilenium, we salute you.
And into the commercial break, we had Steel Raven was working with Silencer. Now, we know the Silencer from last episode. And she was contracting him to say, we need you to do what these other fools were unable to do. We need you to assassinate that president. And he's hiding out in a like that traditional. There's every movie that has like a sniper. There's always these like empty apartments. Are there that many empty apartments? That's what I want to know. Like in like these major cities like New York and stuff. There's always a nice empty apartment along the route that they're able to just take over. Meanwhile, in real life, it takes you weeks of applying for apartments, getting credit checks, all these things. Yeah, and
that's half of the villain bill is renting out empty apartments.
It totally is. That was what Cobra spent most of their money on, their elaborate bases. I mean, let's be real here. So they're protecting the motorcade, and in a really nice bit of like editing, as the motorcade is driving along the street, we keep cutting back to Silencer putting his rifle together. This is very much like that old Clint Eastwood movie, In the Line of Fire, which was pretty great. And he's setting up for a shot. Now, of course, he's the Silencer, right? So he's not going to ever shoot straight. He's going to bounce it off 18 different angles. Kind of a little reminiscent of the movie Wanted, where he was like shooting through the city, bending bullets. But he's actually aiming his laser off buildings. And Eagle Eye stops him. He stops the first effort. It was pretty it's kind of a calm reaction to an assassination attempt, I gotta be honest.
That is the mark of a true superhero.
Yeah.
Unflappable.
Yeah. Like, yeah, sure, you just try to assassinate the president, but we're okay. So here we are. We're at the Rampage headquarters. And Rampage is like, he's shocked that someone would try to assassinate his competitor. Like, what? I had nothing. I didn't take any information from any foreign governments. What are you talking about? Oh, of course, they love me. And here we go. And it looks like, so Eagle Eye was actually hit by that laser. And it hit him in the armor. Which is, hey, how often do we see our heroes actually get hit?
Well, this show has shown it a couple times with Mayday's foot in the cast, right?
Right, exactly. This show does. Most iterations, that laser would have just missed, but that laser they show actually did damage to him. Now, it hit his body armor, I'm sure, but that it actually hit him. And this is also...
I still wouldn't be that calm at being hit, even if it was body armor.
No, but you know what's really funny? This quote-unquote assassination attempt, like that car, they're in a car. They should have driven off 20 minutes ago, but they're actually sitting there in the middle.
They got to give him a second shot.
Yeah, like if you're tracking what's happening here, is he got shot at, and instead of just driving away at high speeds, whatever their Secret Service is called, the car is actually still parked exactly where it was, but this is amazing. Eagle Eye follows the laser rangefinder, the angle of the laser, and he shoots his weapon along that same angle, reflecting off a building and hitting the silencer in the gun, stopping the silencer's attack. That's amazing, Jason.
I like that it wasn't the exact angle, but somehow it pulled in and then followed it.
Yeah.
I think even Bullseye would have killed Daredevil by now if he had been this good.
Yeah. Eagle Eye's amazing. Let's write that Eagle Eye Bullseye crossover, where everything they throw at each other just stops in midair because they constantly hit each other with it. So Rampage really just loses his stuff. You could say this is tantamount to a 2 a.m. Sitting on the toilet Twitter rampage that's happening right now. Speaking of Rampage. And Freight and Eagle Eye and Stone, they break into that abandoned apartment that Silencer was shooting from. And we see that it is a 97% to 3% landslide. Rampage loses. I hope and I pray and I cross my fingers that we get a real life, like a real-time cosplay version of this show in about a month or two time.
That would be incredible.
It would be everything that I want in life. I want nothing but this country to get back to some semblance of sanity, and that starts at the top. And Jason, it's your first episode of G.I. Joe Extreme,
and it is extreme.
What did you think?
I loved it. I think that this is definitely a show that I'm ready to sit down with Hacker and burn through all of it a couple times and convince Joel that he needs to find it, read the comics, check out the toys, whatever, so that we can talk about it over there.
Absolutely. Too. And let's remember, listeners, keep putting a bug in the ear of Hasbro and G.I. Joe Official on the internet. # release the extreme. We've got to get, maybe it's just an explanation of like why they can't. Maybe there's rights issues that they'll be like, we can't because we lost the rights to something. I don't know. But that's cool too. But if they have the ability to release these in versions that aren't ripped from a Appleton, Wisconsin 1996 VCR, I would love to see them. I'd love to see the show cleaned up with good audio tracks so that more people can enjoy it, because this show is dynamite. King Cow, you're dynamite. Hacker is dynamite. Remember, everyone, follow them on Order of Battle PD. That's the Order of Battle podcast on Twitter, at Caesarmoo on Twitter as well. And remember, the 29th, wish Hacker a happy birthday. He turns 9. So everyone, pump that Twitter feed full of birthday wishes. What do you say to that, Jason?
I think that would be fantastic, and I appreciate it. I really do hope they release the Extreme. If they can put Pirates of Darkwater and Zytor, the Starfire champion, on disc. I don't see why they couldn't put something this good on disc.
I've never even heard of Pirates of Zytor. What is that? Or Champions of... What did you say? Champions of... I know Pirates of Darkwater. What was the other one?
Zytor, the Starfire champion. It was like a week-long or 2-week-long cartoon from like 88, maybe 89. It was pretty horrible, but I loved it when I was, 12, 13 years old.
Listen, I think that's the best argument ever for releasing the Extreme. # release the Extreme. Jason, thank you again for doing the show. It's such a pleasure to have you on.
I appreciate it, Joe.
Man, and now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle. Extreme!